This is the Washington Times front page for Thursday, September 14th, 2023. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. Law enforcement teams worked overnight through a storm to surround and capture Danelo Cavalcante after an intense manhunt following his escape from a Pennsylvania jail 2 weeks ago. Matt Delaney reports an aircraft with thermal technology located his heat signature in a heavily wooded area about 30 miles northwest of Philadelphia, and ground teams were moving in before a storm disrupted the search. The aircraft returned after the weather cleared, and authorities covertly surrounded and captured Cavalcante. The 34-year-old was crawling through thick underbrush with a stolen rifle when a canine immobilized him by biting him. Roughly 500 officers from various state, local, and federal agencies assisted in the manhunt for the convicted murderer, who was captured without authorities firing a shot. Republican lawmakers say the House will move quickly to open its impeachment inquiry into corruption allegations against President Biden. Susan Friicchio and Kerry Pickett report House Oversight and Accountability Committee Chairman James Comer said his committee will hold a September hearing that lays out evidence showing the president engaged in an unlawful scheme to enrich his family. Comer said the panel will pursue bank records from the president's family members. The committee will seek to access bank accounts controlled by Biden's son Hunter and his brother James. At the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, the White House is encouraging media outlets to be more skeptical of the impeachment inquiry. Tom Howe reports a memo was addressed to the leadership of news organizations 1 day after House Speaker Kevin McCarthy opened the inquiry. The memo lists quotes from Republicans who say they haven't seen evidence that the alleged business deals amount to corruption. The U.S. and South Korea nervously monitored a rare meeting between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Russian President Vladimir Putin at Russia's flagship space center. Andrew Salmon reports footage released by Russian media showed Kim reading a speech at a dinner after he and Putin were guided around outdoor launch pads. Kim said he would offer unconditional support for Russia's sacred fight. Asked whether Russia would be prepared to offer satellite technologies to Kim, Putin replied, "That's exactly why we came here." And finally, staying with Putin, the crusade by the Russian president to silence his critics over the last 2 decades has reached military and political circles, as well as outspoken academics and influential bloggers. Ben Wolfgang reports analysts say Putin is following his standard playbook and is behaving less like an unhinged dictator and more like a cold, calculating mob boss, doing so by lulling his opponents into a false sense of security and waiting for the perfect moment to exact revenge. Over the first 6 months of this year, the Kremlin has reportedly blocked more than 885,000 websites as part of an apparent effort to filter out information critical of Russian leaders and their ongoing war in Ukraine. Putin's regime is also aiming at prominent military bloggers who backed the invasion of Ukraine, but have emerged as some of the harshest critics of how the war has been fought. Find all today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Washington Times in any major podcast app. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.